I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I applied to it, and I was like in the third interview, and I remember sitting there in the third interview and thinking like, this sounds like the worst possible thing I could do.
This is so boring.
Yeah, and like I feel like I'm selling out. And so I was literally in this third interview with the person, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just realized I don't want to do this.
You said that in the interview?
Yeah, I did.
Welcome back to episode 7 of the Rome's Room podcast, where we discuss education, careers, and show you how ordinary people can be extraordinarily successful. As always, I'm your host, Jerome, and welcome to my room. Quick reminder, you can catch us on all podcast platforms, so Apple, Spotify, CastBox. And if you want to watch the video version, go to youtube.com/Jerome Vaz. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos, content, whatever. Today's co-host is a close childhood friend of mine. He is an entrepreneur, a realtor, recently engaged, and also the first person to ever get me into weightlifting when I was under like 100 pounds. Please welcome to the show, Maddox Southard.
Thanks for having me.
You have to clap for yourself on this show. No studio audience.
Okay.
Unfortunately. How's it going, man?
It's good.
Drove all the way from Chattanooga. Was it I mean, you've done that drive a million times.
I do that drive a lot, yes. I live in Chattanooga, but I work a lot in Knoxville, so I make this drive.
It's funny that you or that we specifically said the city. When I interviewed Jared on this, I was like saying like names of cities and stuff, and he was getting so mad.
Oh yeah.
He was just like, "You're doxing my location," and I was like, "Who's gonna know?"
I don't care. I mean, I do business in these places, so people
exactly
know
people need to know.
Yeah.
It could be like a potential client.
Ironically, though, I do make that drive a lot, but my favorite thing to do when I'm making that drive is listen to podcasts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this can be
it can be
your
content.
podcast of choice.
For sure.
But, okay, here's my problem with podcasts, because I also listen to podcasts a lot now, but I feel like I only listen to, like, comedy podcasts. Like, but I'm assuming you listen to, like, actual things that matter.
Yeah, most of the content I consume is like practical nonfiction content. Well, like, so my fiance, she like exclusively like reads fiction.
Yeah.
But I like exclusively read like nonfiction. So
Really?
it's like if I'm like spending time to consume content, I like feel the need for it to be like useful to me. I don't know.
And people have always said that, like, you'll read those lists of like, I don't know, billionaires that are like, these are the books that I read to be successful. But I don't know, man. It's just so boring.
Yeah.
I want to read about like a bank heist. I want to read some shit that is like Fast and Furious 5.
Okay.
Bank vault through the city. That's what I want.
That's a good point. Movies, I guess I can fall into the just pure dumb entertainment realm.
I just want in anything that I do, I just want to be entertained.
Yeah. And
nonfiction is not entertaining, but I guess it can like help you with life.
Sometimes I don't know. Are we off topic? Are we too far off topic already?
No. These are the pleasantries. Okay. You gotta work your way into it. Well, okay. So obviously we've known each other since we were like very young children, like 6 years old or something like that. And I would personally say we became like really close through like soccer, middle school, high school age.
Yeah.
I still remember when we played like middle school soccer, and there was that time. I hope you remember this. We were in I think this was the semifinals of our 8th grade year middle school tournament. It might have been 7th grade. I can't remember. But you were playing goalkeeper. You punted the ball up. Middle school, weird time. I'm like short. Everyone else is tall. And I'm playing midfield. The ball's coming down to me, right? I'm like 4'2", and going up against this defender that's at least 6'8", guaranteed. I jump up for the ball, right? Header. That's like at this guy's waist. And he just whacks me in the nose.
Yep, I recall this.
And just shattered nose.
Yeah.
Well, not really. I think I had like a hairline fracture. But, dude, I was so mad. That guy didn't even get a red card. He got like a yellow or something.
Yes, I remember that.
Well, also speaking of soccer, did you see the freaking, I sent it to you, I think, the Kylian Mbappe deal?
I saw that.
That's wild.
Yes. I don't know how that much money has gotten into soccer, but
I just don't know how people even like afford that. Like, I know it's like Saudi princes and whatnot, blah, 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 but like $775 million for a single year contract is insane.
For sure.
Anyway,
it could have been us, but
I know, that's what I'm saying. But we were not good at soccer.
Yes, we were bench warmers.
But okay, so we kind of like played soccer kind of all throughout our life. But I distinctly remember there was a time when you quit at one point.
Yeah.
Do you remember why that was, or like what happened?
Yeah. It was going into high school. It was
Okay. Like ninth grade.
Yeah. I mean, you remember, right?
Yeah.
Was like one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And he moved away, and I don't know, that just kind of like was hard on me or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I don't know. I guess I decided I was tired of soccer, and especially if he wasn't going to be playing with me anymore. And so I quit then.
That was like similar time when I quit too.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's what it was. I also distinctly remember you like breaking your jaw, and I thought that was what triggered it.
Actually, that's when I got back into soccer. Because,
really?
Yeah, so I quit kind of after middle school, and then I didn't play freshman and sophomore year, and then that's kind of when I just played a lot of RuneScape and got kind of overweight, and then I ended up breaking my jaw in junior year and lost a bunch of weight quickly, and then following that, that's when I kind of got back into that's when I first started getting into like fitness and stuff like that, and so part of that, I guess, transition was getting back into soccer.
Because I remember you lost like a ton of weight when you broke your jaw.
Yeah.
You couldn't eat anything, and
yeah, I mean, my jaw was wired shut, and so I was just liquids for a whole month, and
you were like stupid skinny.
I don't know. I mean, I lost probably like 35 pounds in like a month.
Insane.
But I wasn't obese or anything, but I was like a little chubby.
So if you're trying to lose weight, break your jaw.
Honestly, yeah, or like liquid only diets. I mean,
apparently it works, right?
Yeah, it's not the most fun, but they worked.
Well, so I remember. So after that, and I'm gonna give myself credit, I nagged you enough to convince you to come back and play again. I remember I asked you like a bunch, and you would just be like, "No, I'm not doing it."
Yeah.
And then eventually,
I remember it was. There was a meeting in coach's room to like.
Yeah, and that guy was like, I'm not gonna say anything. Never mind. Just keep going.
I just remember there was a meeting there, and I was like, it was at the end of the school day, and I knew it was happening, and I was debating it, and like you said, like people were trying to get me to come, and then like I wasn't gonna do it, and then just I don't know, something flipped, and like I came in, and like everyone was already sitting there, and then I just. Part of the problem is though, I was hesitant because I played goalkeeper. And
starting goalkeeper all throughout.
No. Well, I mean when I was younger.
Yeah.
Right. But and then I quit, and so the high school team already had some starting goalkeepers. Right. So it like two on each team, like two on the varsity and two on the JV.
At the time, yeah.
So it was like, okay, if I come back in, there's going to be 5 goalkeepers. Do I really need 5 goalkeepers?
So were you debating like playing a field position at that point?
I came in just being like, I'm open to whatever. I did try out for goalkeeper, and I think they quickly realized that I was a skilled goalkeeper.
Right. It was it was one of those situations where they were like, oh shit, like we already have 2 on each team, but like we have to get this kid like in the rotation
it's like
somehow.
Right. It was like
So
I mean, I think I was particularly good like on the ground.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
I was pretty like confident in coming out and taking the ball off people's feet and stuff.
Right.
I think that's kind of where I excelled. So I remember a lot of during the tryouts I was like doing that. And,
right. I remember when we were doing, or when you guys would do like ground drills even, like oftentimes they would have you like leading those.
Yeah.
And I remember, so out of like 5 goalkeepers, when you came back, you were probably like, we were what, sophomores, juniors maybe?
Yeah.
So they already had like a senior goalkeeper. So maybe you're not number 1 on out of 5, but I would argue like at like 2.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But then here was the hard part for me coming back, because I quit for a year, came back sophomore year. You quit for a couple, came back junior year. I feel like once you miss out on that like freshman season,
Yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's just
The
that's how
team
a
is
lot of
like
things
set.
like there's seniority and like
Yeah.
yeah.
And they like know how people will play, and
Yeah.
they don't know
Well,
us.
also like, I mean, as far as the goalkeepers go, like we had like all the goalkeepers, like we were all
Really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I think we had a good like,
Yeah.
set, and we our goalkeeper coach was
Oh, yeah.
he was very very talented. So yeah, it was kind of I mean, it's not like it wasn't a big deal because I was mostly coming at it from just like something I want something to do and something
Right.
for exercise.
Right.
I wasn't super competitive about like the getting playtime or stuff. Honestly, like we had a lot of fun just
Yeah.
hanging out on the bench
Well,
together.
We did. But we were on the bench for different reasons. I feel like you were on the bench because, again, it was a numbers reason. There's only
Well,
one
yeah.
position for you to fill. I was on the bench because I was not great.
Well, I don't know.
No, but
We'll
you're
leave it
right.
up.
We did have a lot of fun. I remember the worst part about it was they would give us these like little jackets. You remember?
Yeah.
And I used to wear mine everywhere because
Right.
it was like, I don't know, like a sense of pride or whatever.
Yeah.
And like our season would start in like February or something, and it'd be cold as shit outside.
Yeah.
And we'd be playing like night games, and we'd be on the bench, and I would get really cold. Well, you at least had like long sleeves because goalkeeper.
And gloves.
And gloves,
Yep.
yeah. And I'd be like in the short sleeve, like whatever, and I'd put my jacket on, and we'd get yelled at because they'd be like, "Don't put your jacket on."
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's just like it was, riding the bus places with your friends and like
Free
getting
food.
the snacks, and then
Yep. That's true.
I mean, just hanging out with I don't know.
So
It's
I
like,
guess at some point though, did it become a little more like competitive in nature for you? Because once we started thinking about college and stuff,
Yeah.
you actually started recruiting with a couple schools.
Yeah, I
And
went.
you actually you had an offer, right?
I honestly don't
Like a
remember.
conditional offer at what was the school? Watford?
Yeah, so
Wofford?
I went to the Wofford. I went to the Wofford camp, and I did really well. I'm pretty sure I was one of the, if not like the best,
Yeah.
like goalkeeper there. I don't think I got an offer. I think like maybe if I think there was probably an opportunity for me to maybe play there if I
Got
like
it.
pursued it, but like I didn't get like an official offer or anything.
Well, I remember
but-
you also got like injured, and then you missed like your.
Yeah, I
a
can't
little
remember
bit
the
of soccer
timeline
season.
on that. I think that was. I think I maybe got injured before that, or maybe after that. I don't know.
If I'm, again, I don't know if this is right. The way that I remember it was, the summer before senior year, you went to the camp, you did really well, and then
Yeah.
they were like, okay, like you've only played on a high school team for a year, we want to like see some more out of you, type thing. Show us what you can do in the fall, like in your club season, and then you got
yeah.
hurt and you
Yeah.
had to sit out like the entire club season.
Yeah, because I remember that. Like I went to like maybe one practice and
Yeah.
then I just like wasn't on the team after
Right,
that.
because and it was like a serious injury, like you like.
Well, I still
burned your
have the
Achilles
scar.
or
You
something.
want to show the camera?
No. I don't think anyone wants to see your scars.
Yeah, I wrecked a little motorcycle thing, and the exhaust pipe landed on my. It just kind of laid down on my the back of my ankle here and just burned a lot of the skin.
So was it like an Achilles injury or not necessarily?
Yeah, I guess whatever the back
Yeah.
of your ankle is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a really really deep burn, and I had to like go to Vanderbilt
Right.
Burn Center to like get it looked at. It ended up not. I mean, it took a while to heal, but I think it. Burns. People have to sometimes get like skin grafts, like
Yeah.
taking skin from other places,
Right.
and luckily it didn't have to. I didn't have to do anything like that.
Really?
Yeah, they just basically just gave me like some type of ointment or something that
Yeah.
I applied to it every day, and
It was like a long
and I had
time.
to wrap it like with gauze and
Yeah.
and every day, and eventually it just kind of scabbed over and healed up, and I mean there's still a scar there,
That's
and
disgusting.
I think for a while this I think still to this day, like I think like if I tried to balance on my right leg
Yeah.
opposed to my left leg, like it's a little
Really?
like, but I mean I'm not like
Well, yeah.
affected by it
Yeah,
on a
we're
daily
not like
basis or anything.
yeah, we're not like playing aggressive.
Right. But yeah, that
sports
pretty
anymore,
much, that pretty much like I guess at that point, that was pretty much like, okay, I'm probably not going to play soccer in college.
Right. But then, so at that time, kind of, if not on a sports scholarship or like recruitment through sports, like, how were you kind of doing academically at that point? I remember, just college-wise, I know your older brother went to like UT, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like obviously easy choice, like school in the backyard. Like I've mentioned this many times on this podcast. Like,
yeah,
it's an easy school to go to from where we grew up.
Yeah,
and
it's a good school too.
Yeah, and Maryville High School specifically always used to tell us like, oh, if you went to Maryville, like you're not going to have any problem at UT. They like beat that into your brain.
Right.
Complete lie, but they told you that.
Well, I think. Okay, well, for one, I never thought I'd be on a podcast being asked about my education because, I mean, going to school with me, you probably knew, like, I wasn't a bad student, but, like, I definitely, like, didn't take school
You didn't take
super
it seriously, yeah.
And for how little effort I put in, I feel like I did pretty well. But, so, yeah, I mean, I went to UT.
Well, were you looking at other colleges at all, or was it like, this is where I'm going?
I mean, this is maybe one of the things I kind of like regret in life, but it just like, since I didn't really care that much, I didn't put a lot of effort into like looking at different schools. So it just kind of like, we graduated and then like, it was like, all right, what's the plan? I applied to like, a few, maybe like, I don't know, like Tennessee Tech or something maybe, like I applied to a few schools, but it was like UT was like the obvious, like,
right.
Just,
plus like in-state tuition and like it was certainly easy.
But yeah, like looking back, I kind of, I don't know, because I actually like, having gone through it all now, like my experience at UT was really, really good. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I think I maybe would have wished I had like pursued like a more diverse set of opportunities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well, but I think that is like kind of the interesting part about this podcast is kind of that like growing up nature, right? Like of like the high school, like early college days of like, I don't know what I'm doing in life. And I feel like a lot of people assume that when you're 19, 20, 21, like you know what you're doing.
Right.
And I'm 26, about to be 27 now, and I have no idea what
I still feel like I'm just getting through it day by day.
Right, exactly. And honestly, we could make an entire podcast just about like the memories we have together in like in life. But another one that I just remembered on the topic of like not taking school seriously, but like you were really smart. We took AP Calculus together, BC, and there was this time when our teacher, Mr. Shout out, Mr. Hope you're doing well.
I do too. He was one of my favorite teachers.
He was really good. Like he was ex-engineer. I want to say had a PhD, at least a master's. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Probably not a PhD, but then in his like retirement became a high school teacher, and like he was super chill. Was teaching calculus, and there was this one section that he like taught to us completely wrong, and I don't know why, but you were sick or out for some reason that day, week, whatever it was that he taught it to us. And we had like a test on it at the end of the week. Everyone in the class failed. I'm talking even like our valedictorian, salutatorian, I'm talking everyone made like 60s. And he was so pissed at us. But one Mr. Maddox Southard, who is out sick, food poisoning or whatever it was, taught yourself the entire section like out of the textbook and came back, and I don't think you got 100, but you got like a very, very high.
I got a 95, I'm pretty sure.
And I'm pretty sure he accused you of cheating.
Well, he definitely, I mean, he didn't accuse me, like, explicitly, but, like, he was probably like, how did this...
Yeah.
Literally everyone failed. How did this kid get a...
Right. He's like, how is our valedictorian, salutatorian getting 70 minus?
But, yeah, I mean, he just taught it wrong.
I know. I know.
And
I failed that test, too.
Yeah. I honestly don't even know if I missed a day or if I just, like, wasn't paying attention in class, so I had to...
You had to
like
go
teach
back
myself.
And like, teach yourself. Yeah.
But I remember studying for it. I was studying for it at your house. We were up in the bonus room, and I remember like sitting there like teaching myself it.
Damn, you should have taught it to me, bro.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah.
Yeah,
no.
I guess that's my like claim to fame.
No, all that to say, you're a freaking genius. But so okay, we're at UT. What's kind of going through your head as you get there? Are you still like this? I don't want to take this very seriously, or was there like a hard?
my first semester at UT was really, really difficult for me because, I mean, coming from Maryville, where I think they did, you do get pretty well prepared in terms of just like okay, so you get to UT and you have to take all these gen eds, right?
Yep.
And literally some of the AP AP calculus class, like that was a more difficult class than
for sure.
than the calculus
Calc 1 or whatever
you had to take at UT. Yeah. So it was like, okay, I'm here at UT, I'm taking out debt to be here. I feel like I am taking classes that are less difficult than stuff I've already taken. Yep. It's like I'm like
why am I?
I'm going into debt to like learn stuff that I already know, essentially. And I, like I said, I didn't have much direction. I was just kind of at UT because it was like I didn't have anything better to be doing.
Yep.
So I was really struggling with all of that. And so, I don't know. I was like, I just didn't know if I wanted to be there. And then at the same kind of time, my mom lost her job.
I thought that was in high school, actually.
No, it was her first semester at UT is when that happened.
Wow.
So like 2014.
Yeah.
So she lost. This all happened in the same day, and but so I was at UT. Didn't really want to be there. Wasn't enjoying myself there. I got a call from a Navy recruiter just randomly one day, just like cold calling people.
Yeah. And
then literally like my mom came home from work and like had lost her job, and like all that happened in this kind of the same day, and like I don't know, I took that as like a sign, and so like I was like, I don't need to be here, I'm just gonna like join the Navy. And like
I remember that actually in preparing like notes and stuff for this, I'd completely forgotten about all that, but yeah, you were taking that like super seriously.
Yeah.
Like I think our gym regimen kind of changed at that point because it went from us basically just like lifting weights and trying to get as heavy as we possibly could to yours became much more regimented. Your diet changed. Your general physique was changing.
Yeah. So I mean, basically what happened is like, okay, I decided I don't want to be at UT, and now like, there's a lot of uncertainty in my family. Like I'm just gonna go join the military and like get a good
benefits are great.
A certain income.
Yep, salary's great.
So, but also, there's this like ambitious side of me that's like, if I'm gonna be joining the Navy, like I'm gonna do the hardest thing you can possibly do, which is be a Navy SEAL.
Oh shit.
And so I pretty quickly like, I went and talked to the recruiter like same day, and then like I had to take like a written exam, which they kind of, I mean, it's like on the computer, but basically it's kind of just like to assess like your education level, essentially. And this kind of like an ACT or something like that.
But this is like specific for the SEALs.
No. This is
just for the Navy.
This is a general Navy like thing.
And I don't understand the military at all, but I'm assuming from my understanding, like Navy is like, I don't know if I should.
I don't even know. So okay. If you just want to gloss over it.
If there's like basic level intelligence that you just have to pass by this exam of some sort.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then I think also there's like, depending on how you score, you have certain opportunities available to you.
Got it.
So I took that and I got like a very high score, and basically they were like, the guy was like, you can literally do anything. Like you have every opportunity available to you. And so like I was I was already going the Navy SEAL route, and he was actively trying to not make me go that route because that's like the least like the conversion. He cares about converting people, and that's like the least conversion like route because it's really
a little bit
difficult.
Of foresight. Was he more concerned that you would attempt that, get burnt out, and not want to do anything in the military, or was he just like?
He probably just was. He's just a general recruiter. He probably just like
wanted to place you somewhere.
He just he wanted to
get his commission for it or whatever.
And then so I took that, and they were basically like, you can literally be like a nuclear engineer or something. Like you could literally do anything you want in the Navy. And then like I took they do like a physical, and like I passed that, and I like passed that with everything. So it's like all the like literally any opportunity was available to me because like I was physically fit. Like at that time I didn't even need glasses. That's
Yeah.
actually like something that I think is a requirement for
Yeah.
being a SEAL, is like having 20/20 vision or close to it.
Without correction, right? Like you can't do LASIK.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but just they did it. They do a basic physical assessment, and like you have to pass that.
Right.
But I was pretty committed to the SEAL thing, and like at that time, like working out was my life. you
Yeah.
know? So like literally,
remember-
we were in the gym like 2 hours a day. Like,
Yeah, and we would go eat. You would eat
Yeah.
way more than me.
Yeah.
But we'd like eat to the point of like wanting to throw up, and then we'd grab an apple.
Well, yeah, and
we'd go
honestly,
outside and we'd throw an apple at a wall.
yeah, and you threw it into that
There was
pipe
a little
one time.
drain pipe in the wall, and every day we would take one singular apple. We'd eat the apple, so we're not wasting food. And we'd take the apple core and we'd try to get it right in the drain pipe.
Yeah,
And I got it one time.
yeah. On that note, though, I think a lot of maybe like the fitness habits that I was like using then
Yeah.
are probably not the healthiest things now, like in retrospect. But anyway, we worked out a lot, and we were trying to eat to put on muscle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do the SEAL thing. Like, it was like it was like the most challenging thing to me fitness wise. So yeah, I mean, like you said, so basically I'd already paid for that semester at UT. So
Right.
I was like, and also like the physical, like, so for the SEALs, the like physical tests, I don't remember what they're called. Like the physical exams to like that you had to pass to get
Yeah.
into the next step, which was called BUDS, were like at UT anyway.
Oh.
So like at the aquatic
Convenient,
center.
yeah.
So I was like, I've already paid for like a meal plan here.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna stay here, train, hang out with my
Well,
friends.
Which,
like,
truthfully, if you think about it, like stupid expensive gym membership, but like state of the art equipment.
yeah, for sure.
You know?
And we had the pool. The pool was a big
Yep.
thing. Like I had to learn to swim.
Olympic sized pool, right?
Yeah.
Were we allowed to use that one?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I basically just like, I withdrew from like, I was in like 4 classes.
Mm-hmm.
I withdrew from like 2.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
and then I don't really. I kept going to like 2 other ones, and I was
Yeah.
just trying to like pass them to.
Well, you probably had to keep like some sort of.
Yeah, I was
enrollment
trying to. I was
designation.
trying not to just completely destroy my GPA.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, so, or like drop out completely.
Right, right.
But I was trying to minimize the damage as much as possible. But basically, I was just trying to live there and then pass this test and
Yeah.
then go to the Navy. Fast forward a little bit. My mom transitioned into real estate and very quickly had a lot of success there. Like, started making more money than she did teaching.
Yeah.
So like, the initial.
And I think it's important to understand the scale of that. Like, it was like, I don't know, a teacher's, like, multitudes of a teacher's salary.
Yeah,
Maybe
it was
not
like
right
I think
away,
her first
but-
year she did like double what she made
Yeah,
teaching.
which
So,
is, like, phenomenal.
yeah. I mean, now that's
Yeah.
like not that much.
Right.
But like at that time, it was like, oh wow, she's a great opportunity. So like that initial reason that I had like quickly transitioned to going into the military, like that kind of the circumstances had kind of changed. And then at the same time, I was taking these physical exams like regularly, and so the exam is basically like you start by doing, I can't remember the numbers, but like X amount of crunches, X amount of push-ups, X amount of pull-ups, like back to back to back, and you have to do so many. And then after that, you have to go and I can't remember if the swim or the run comes next, but you have to do a really long swim and then a 1.5 mile run, but it's like pretty quick pace. Yeah. And so that was kind of the exam that you had to pass to get to the next step. And I'd gotten a lot better at swimming, but like I was still like kind of struggling with the swimming. Yeah. And like honestly, I was realizing like a lot of the people there were like swimmers, like, or just like swimming is just did not come naturally to me. Like it was something I had to work really hard at.
Yeah.
And I started realizing like, I mean, the swimming is a big part of the SEAL. Like, you need to be pretty comfortable in the water.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess just at some point I was like, I don't really need to be forcing this.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I just decided to quit pursuing that, and I decided to go back to UT, and basically I was just gonna suck it up.
Yeah.
And like
And get the degree.
To get the degree.
Yeah.
And I was undecided in my major and everything, and I remember when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back. What was the most interesting to me out of all the things that I did? And so like I remember there was like one class in Econ 101 with that there was I don't even remember the concept. We talked about some concept, and it was like it just was so analogous to like
supply and demand.
No, it was so analogous to like something that I had done in RuneScape, and it actually was supply. It was kind of supply and demand, but I just remember that, and I was like, that was like the most interesting thing to me. Like I'm just gonna do economics.
Right.
And funny though, I did like I failed Econ 101 that semester.
Really?
Like I actually think I took an F in it.
Yeah.
Just because that was one of the classes I didn't withdraw from, but I also just like wasn't going to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up majoring in economics, but I think it's funny to note that I actually failed
Which,
econ.
if people don't realize, if you're not in college or you went to college years and years and years ago, it's very common to just not go to class. Listen, it happens. But at any point in time, did you ever consider like, okay, if not Navy because of the swimming thing, like a different branch, like not SEALs, Marines, or like?
No, I didn't. And honestly, like, there was probably just, like I said, it was like I was kind of just doing that out of like ambition.
Yeah.
Like,
I
literally just picked it was either I was going to do the hardest thing I could possibly do or not at all.
Yeah. No, I get that. Like, that's literally the reason I went into investment banking.
Yeah.
And it's not even like you want to prove anything to anyone other than yourself, just to say like, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, I do think, I remember training for it, and it was like, I think I got a lot of benefit of it. Like I was like pushing my body beyond like what I ever would have thought I could do. I mean, I just remember like I would go to like the middle school track in like the middle of the night and just like run.
I remember this.
Like,
yeah.
I just like pretty much any waking moment that I was like trying, I would, I had like any ounce of energy that's like I would try to be like training for this. But yeah.
And I guess so. Then you went back to school, officially became a econ major. But at UT, it was a little odd, right? There was a small nuance to it. There was like you could be econ under the College of Arts and Sciences, or you could do econ through the business school.
Right.
And you chose arts and science. Like, first question, was there any difference there in
most of the classes?
curriculum?
Most of the classes overlapped. I think the business one you had to take some more like statistical type classes. The arts and science one I think was like a little bit easier, or like less credit hours.
I would assume maybe a little more like theory based.
Yeah, and I chose that one because I was like already kind of behind, and it was like if I had gone to like engineering or something like that, it's like I would have been there an extra year or something.
A complete restart.
So I just that was part of it. I enjoyed it, and then also it was like I didn't get I could still do it in a reasonable amount of time.
Right. Right.
I did have to take 2 summer classes, I think, but
no, well, who doesn't have to take summer classes?
Yeah.
You know? Also, and I'm actually I said that in jest, but now that I think about it, I'm being so serious when I say that. Like, I think most college students, at least this is just my experience with like my friends and myself. If you want to graduate college in 4 years on the dot, all colleges will make it seem like that is normal. I don't think that's the norm.
No, I definitely think more people end up taking summer classes.
I think if you do the standard like 12 to 15 hours a semester and you do that for 4 years, you're not graduating in 4 years ever in any degree.
Yeah.
You either have to do some sort of summer class or you like have to stay an extra semester or whatever.
And this was another thing that I was getting really frustrated with. My first semester there is, I was spending a lot of time like talking to the advisors, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but like I was giving them stuff that I was interested in. Like I really wanted to take a computer science course because programming had always been like interesting to me. But like they were always like, well, if you're not going to pursue a computer science degree, like you probably shouldn't waste your time there, which is like maybe good advice, but like I almost think like in the grand scheme of things, like if you kind of are there and you're undecided and you're gonna maybe like have to make up stuff anywhere, like you should at least be just like experimenting with stuff that you might like.
Right,
you
like
know?
Isn't that the whole point of college, to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life?
And that's a lot of like I feel like my personality and like I don't know, it's kind of influenced like decisions I've made is just like being in situations like that and not understanding like why am I here taking classes that I've already taken.
Yep.
And like it just I don't know, I get really, not so much anymore, but like I used to get really caught up on stuff like that. Like, why does the system work this way?
Yeah.
You know,
and like why? Yeah, I completely get that. No, because it's a good point. Like, but then from the advisor's perspective, I guess it's like balancing the, how do I get this kid to graduate in 4 years? So then like our numbers, like graduation numbers, look good and blah blah blah, whatever. So they're like trying to convince you to take the extra econ class, not the computer.
Well, ironically, one of the classes they ended up getting me to take was physics, and it was like that was one that I really kind of struggled with and like also didn't need because I ended up going economics. But they said that was one that was like, you know,
like
could give you
flex.
credit hours for a lot of different things and stuff. But
I get that.
I don't know.
I get that. But I guess in terms of like job opportunities and stuff, like coming out of the School of Art and Sciences versus like business, was that something you were even worried about? Because like obviously nowadays, like you're an entrepreneur, you kind of have always done your own thing, and you found a lot of success doing your own thing. But back then, what was going through your head, like coming up on graduation?
Nothing. I mean, yeah, kind of like in high school, going into college, like there wasn't that much forethought. I mean, you know, I'd already kind of gone this one direction and then come back, and like at that point, it was like really just like, hey, just you're here to just suck it up and get a degree. Like it wasn't. I wasn't thinking about job prospects or like, or any. So I mean. Yeah, like I guess if I went back and I was thinking about those things, like maybe going the business route would have been more. I honestly I don't know that it matters. Though.
I don't know.
I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure
I don't
either.
know that. I don't know that. You know. That distinction of.
Right.
Like I don't know if anyone even looks at that or cares about that.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, like to make the distinction, you would have to like put that on your resume, or like someone would have to like specifically ask or whatever. I don't really know. But so then we graduated. What was the next step for you there? I'm skipping some stuff here on purpose because we're filming 2 episodes today, and I've got other questions for you later.
Okay.
But you know, we're coming upon graduation. You graduate. Now, was it always, not always, but like at that time you were like, oh, like I don't have a job lined up, like I should continue my educational journey, go get my master's degree? Or was it like, all right, okay, I need to start making money, like let's figure out
well, let me fill in with some gaps real quick.
Okay.
Junior year of college, I did do semester at C.
Yep.
So this is a pretty like monumental part of my journey, I think. So.
And explain to people what semester at C specifically is.
It's just a study abroad program, but basically you're on like a cruise ship and you're taking courses on the ship, but then you're also like traveling around. Like I went to 11 different countries while I was on the ship. So I spent a semester doing that. I met my now fiance on that trip. So that was a pretty and so that's kind of why I was saying, looking back on my experience at UT, and especially with that, it was like it all was really like it was a good experience.
Yeah.
And so So I guess graduating, you know, I mean, like I said, I didn't have any like really prospects or anything. I didn't know what I was going to do.
But your kind of like outlook on life had changed from this experience.
Yeah.
Like maybe we don't get necessarily into like the nuts and bolts of that, but you had a completely different outlook on life.
Well, okay, so my fiance and I, well, she wasn't my fiance then, but we you know, we met on this trip. She was her family lives in Birmingham, Alabama. She went to the University of Alabama. I was at UT. We both graduated at the same time because we were the same age. And so we were trying to figure out how are we going to
keep dating.
Yeah, right. Like, it was kind of both, like, what are we going to do? And so we applied to the JET program, which is like teaching English in Japan. And when we were on semester C, they were like making a lot of opportunities like that, kind of like known to us because obviously like people go on that and are like, how can I like travel more and like work and travel and that type of thing. And a lot of people did do stuff like that. So we applied to that one, and we applied kind of as a couple so that we would be in the same place. Yeah. And I think that was probably, if we really wanted to do it, that probably wasn't the way to apply. We probably should have just done it individually and maybe been in like a few hours away from each other or something. But
I see.
So we didn't get into that. We ended up just going and working at this summer camp in Michigan for a little bit while we tried to figure things out. This was a camp that she had worked at previously, and that was a really good experience. There was a lot of great people there that I met that I'm still consider some of my good friends. Yeah. But then after that, we didn't really know what was next for us, and so she applied to a master's in photography, master's of fine arts in photography at SCAD. Yep. Which is a
phenomenal art school.
And she got into that, so it was like, okay, she's going to Savannah, Georgia, and then I was like, okay, what am I doing?
What can I do in Savannah, Georgia?
Yeah, and so I was making my decisions kind of based on that. Like, I wanted to be there with her, but I had to find an opportunity there. I actually applied to a financial advisory firm there. I guess, I didn't really touch on that, but part of where I had developed in my journey is, I'd started helping my mom with managing the finances of her business. So, I mean, basically, she just, she went from being a school teacher where we were living paycheck to paycheck to making pretty good money. Yeah. I mean, this was kind of the first time that we ever had like an excess of funds in our family. Right.
And so this was kind of like your first like entrepreneurial venture. Yeah,
basically she just was like, hey, I have this money sitting here. I know it should be invested. I don't know how to do that. Figure it out. And this was kind of senior year of college. Yeah. Still. So she kind of just put that on me, and so I was, working on figuring that out, and I became
really good at it.
Well, I just became really interested in that and figuring out how to do that well. Yeah. So I applied to a job at just a big chain financial advisory firm. I'm not going to name them, but anyway. So I was like, I'll just go work for one of these companies in Savannah, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I applied to it, and I was like in the third interview, and I remember sitting there in the third interview and thinking like, this sounds like the worst possible thing I could do.
This is so boring.
Yeah, and like I feel like I'm selling out because a lot of what I had learned in this journey was kind of alternative thinking to like how traditional things work, and I just felt like this was kind of me selling out a little bit. And so I was literally in this third interview with the person, and I was like, I'm sorry, I just realized I don't want to do this.
You said that in the interview?
Yeah, I did. And so...
Whoa. You've never told me that.
Yeah, I just hung up, and I was like, I guess I decided, Hannah's getting her master's, like I should pursue a master's maybe. Yeah. There wasn't really any schools around Savannah that I think I could have pursued a degree that I was interested in.
This was, how long was her program? Was it a 2-year program?
Yeah.
And so this was a year in already?
No, this was like she got accepted, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. So
you're about to start.
Yeah.
Or she's about to start.
Right. And so I just started looking at online programs, and I found Purdue had a Master's of Finance program, Master's of Science in Finance. And I didn't know if I wanted to do finance or like just another economics degree or, but I was a lot more into investments at this point, so I just did the finance one. I felt like getting a formal background in finance wasn't going to hurt anything. Yeah. And
that was a 2-year program.
2-year online program. 2-year. And yeah, I mean, I looked at a lot of different online programs. I thought Purdue kind of had the best reputation as a school for online programs, and they had a program that I was interested in.
Yeah. So you applied, got into the school. I think the biggest thing that I'm curious about that program is kind of, well, first off, I think you were in a very different stage in your life now. You were actually like, because it was something you cared about, you were taking everything much more seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think like what you learned from that program, just like conversations that I've had with you, like theoretical stuff, even like I would say 90% of the stuff that you say goes over my head. And like obviously like I took some of those classes as well. I think you probably got way more detailed into it, but at a basic level, I should understand those concepts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I tell people a lot, like most of what I know and the like skills I use are like things I've taught myself.
Really?
Like I really think that, most of formal education is just like proving that you can like go
think on your own.
Yeah. Just like, I don't necessarily think they're ever really going to teach you anything like proprietary or like earth-shattering. Just like, but I mean, you're getting exposure to like theories and stuff that like do like, they inform like a lot of what, like you can build on those and like,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking specifically about like, you've written a couple papers on like certain topics and.
Well, yeah, a lot of those papers though that I've written and like kind of shared with people, like those were me kind of coercing my professors to let me write about something I was actually interested in.
Oh, interesting.
They were not necessarily things that were like assigned to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, I don't know, that's kind of an interesting like dynamic, like from where I started in school to where I kind of ended, like where I don't know what really necessarily changed, but there was definitely like a change in like perspective of like how much I cared about. Like I in my master's program, I really cared about the work I was doing and the how I was spending my time.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that was maybe a good part about the online program is it was a little more, I felt like there was maybe a little bit more like freedom to like, and it was smaller, smaller classes, which is kind of ironic. You would think the online course, like maybe
I would have assumed it would be like,
but
no limit to how many people they allow in or whatever.
And maybe that's changing. Honestly, they were pretty early in the stages of,
because this would have been
setting this up, but
2019.
2019.
Yeah. So it was honestly right before, the world changed forever.
Yeah, that's another good point because I was a little reluctant to do an online program. I didn't know that I think there's probably still a little, I think it still is a little bit of stigma like toward an online degree, even through something like Purdue, who has like a pretty good reputation.
Yeah.
But I mean, it worked out really well because school ended up being online anyway.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true. Like I started my MBA in 2020 and like my entire first year was online.
Yep.
And I was paying technically at UNC, like the tuition's not different between in-person and online.
Yeah.
But like I felt a little like slighted because I was like I paid and applied for a program that I expected to be in person.
Right.
And I'm not getting that experience.
Yeah, and Hannah, her about a year of her program was online, or so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah.
But so would you say, doing that program, because this kind of goes back to this is funny that we just had that tangent at the beginning of this episode, the Mr. Roop thing.
Yeah.
I think you have found the most success in your life when you teach yourself and do things like on your own and like, follow that path. But did you, kind of comparing this Purdue experience with maybe like the UT experience, did you find like any sort of difference or like difficulty in the program being online versus in person, or did you?
I would say that the difficulties come from, there's probably things about being in an in-person program like that. Just you're not getting those benefits. You're not connecting as well with the people.
That's what I think. Like the networking is probably the hardest part.
Yeah. So if you're trying, and those things are I've realized more like how valuable those things are. And talking about like things I kind of regret, like, I think that, those are things that I didn't really like prioritize very much.
Right.
And that's, those, if you're those things are valuable, and if you want to kind of acquire those things, those in-person experiences, like that's just kind of the trade-off you're making by doing an online program.
Right.
And not that I think that I think if we collectively are like, hey, these things are important, but there's also a ton of benefits from being able to do an online program.
Yeah.
Like I honestly I see the future of education being mostly online.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, you're right. The biggest benefit that I had in an in-person program was definitely, the networking, recruiting, job opportunity aspect of it, because it was, that stuff is, so regimented in those programs.
Right.
And I don't think they're as regimented in an online program. But that being said, I think the online program, for someone that, wants more flexibility, or, there's so many people that just want to go get an MBA and then go back to their same job, but it's going to help them get to the next level at their job. Why not continue to work full time and do an online program on the side?
Yeah.
Or take a year off, but maybe you have a family and you don't want to uproot everyone's entire life. Because my program, the average age of an MBA student is 27, 28, which is not unreasonable to be married and have kids at that age. There were plenty of classmates of mine who had kids and uprooted their entire family to come to Chapel Hill, which that is a very difficult life decision to make. For me, it was a little easier, as at the time 24-year-old or whatever. I wasn't necessarily rooted to anything, but it's a really tough decision. And I think it does make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
And why does it matter? For example, UNC, when I went to UNC, they had the number 1 rated online program in the country.
Yeah.
For MBAs. And it was okay, the in-person MBA programs ranking then was I don't know, low top 20s. But it was what's the difference? What's the benefit that I'm getting from a number 18 in-person program versus what benefit am I getting from the number 1 online MBA? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know either. I think that I think pre-COVID there was probably, online degrees probably weren't taken very seriously. I think post-COVID they're probably taken more seriously now. I still don't think they're equivalent to probably an in-person degree. They're just from the perspective employers.
You're talking perspective, not necessarily the learning.
The learning, right?
Yeah.
Which is what theoretically should matter, but in reality, I don't know that that's actually what matters.
Well, yeah, and I think that's just everything in this world.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, my hope is that they become more well-respected.
I think it will.
And I mean, the way I think about it is there's a lot of dispersion in terms of I've had some really good professors, and I've had some really bad professors,
Yeah.
And I've taken a lot of, I do a lot of courses on Udemy and Coursera. I was taking a lot of additional online courses while I was doing my online degree.
Which Udemy, Coursera sponsor us.
But mostly learning how to code. That's how I've learned how to code. And
right,
that's a big
and that was a big thing that you got into also during that time.
Right, and so I've paid $10 for a course on Udemy by an actual professor, but just an incredible course. I've learned so much and created so much value out of that $10 course.
Right.
And so I don't know. I just see it just seems the future is, hey, the best professors, the best educators should be teaching the most amount of students, and that should drive prices of education down, and that just seems to make so much more sense to me.
In our lifetime, say one day we have kids and they're thinking about college and stuff, I do think there's going to be so much more value on things like Udemy where you can get a certification in Python coding or whatever, and employers will realize if it's this specific certification that's taught by this specific professor, and you take that course and you do well in that course, then that will hold, in certain instances, even more value than a degree in computer science from business school.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we could definitely go that direction if we want to.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah.
But
what about okay, so you're again approaching graduation. Same question.
Yeah.
What's the job prospects looking like for you? Were you thinking about that this time around because you took school more seriously, or were you like, no, I know what I want to do entrepreneurially, and kind of I want to pursue this and see where it can take me?
So I had this whole time while I was doing this degree, I was like working kind of part-time for my mom's business.
Yep.
At this time, I was really just doing like accounting and taxes, managing the finances, helping with like building her website and, marketing and that type of stuff. Basically, like I guess I was running all the back-end operations of the real estate business, but not doing any actual real estate. Like my mom was the client facing, and then everything back-end, I was just doing that. And, it didn't take up all my time because I was able to do this degree as well. But I also, before I graduated, so I was managing the investments of the business. And then also managing my mom's investments. And then, I was getting to the point where, I was having family members, wanting me to manage their investments. And so I realized I needed to create a compliant way for me to be doing this. And also, I was doing it for free, right? Because you can't collect a fee for managing investments without being a registered investment advisor. So, I was like, okay, I'm spending a lot of time doing this for people. I need to like set it up to do it in a compliant manner and where I can pay get compensated for doing it. So while I was in doing my master's program, I took the Series 65 exam, which is just kind of like the lowest level certification you need to start an investment advisory firm.
Yeah.
So I took that, and then I set up, my LLC and got my firm registered as a registered investment advisor, and did all that compliance work. And so that's Graybridge Capital. That's the investment advisory firm I set up. And then
we should have another episode about LLCs and stuff and how to set them up, because it is a lot more complicated than I would have thought. I just recently set up my YouTube LLC.
Oh yeah.
And it is like, it's just more complex than I would have thought.
Right. So, I did all that, and then this was probably like a year before I even graduated that I was doing all this. So I was kind of setting up like I wasn't going to try to get a job after I graduated. I was more just like setting myself up to like, I was going to, keep helping my mom with her business and, hopefully have this new business that was going to be like where I spend most of my time.
Right. And you've spent a lot of time building it out now. Taught yourself literally everything about coding, and built out basically everything you need to have the structure in place. Started building out an app, which we haven't discussed that in a long time. I don't know what stage that's in.
It's canceled.
Oh no!
Yeah, I canceled the app.
Okay.
We can talk about it.
We can talk about that off camera.
No, we can talk about it.
We can talk about it now?
I like it. Yeah, we can talk about it.
So
I don't know where we're at time wise, but
no, we're fine.
But
so you were with Graybridge. You built out the website and everything. You were making an app to try to kind of, I don't know if your goal was to compete with some of these like other apps that are out there for investment management, or if it was supposed to be more niche than that, and just more of like a client portal almost.
Yeah.
But you were building out the app. You taught yourself basically from zero to everything on Python, other things, how to like deploy code and all that. You're working closely with your fiance's brother, who like is like a developer. But it sounds like you were doing most of the development.
Yeah.
And so I guess first off, how did you get comfortable just like in that like programming software world?
Well, I think I should go back just a little bit.
You fill in the holes.
Yeah. Okay, so going back to when my mom first gave me her money and said, figure out how to invest this, my experience then was like almost nothing. I think we were maybe like screwing around on Robinhood, just stuff like that. I was honestly I was interested in financial markets, but I was kind of waiting till like maybe I had taken a course on it to like really start trying to seriously invest. But eventually we did take one of my courses was kind of around macroeconomics, like Forex. Like we had like a Forex trading assignment, which was kind of fun. I did actually pretty well.
Yeah.
So, she gave me this money. I had no idea what I was doing really. So I just kind of like did like some preliminary research on how to invest, and basically just did the whole like buy a broad stock market like index fund thing, just kind of a traditional like
right.
buy and hold thing. And I remember, I guess this was kind of like 2017-ish, and then I remember like one day something happened with like Trump or something, and like for a week like the market just like crashed.
Yeah.
And I just like watched all this money that I had just started investing for my mom like go down, and I was like, this seems like kind of stupid. Like,
yeah.
I don't like the idea of my money just being like at the whim of Trump saying a stupid comment or something like that.
Right.
Or I don't really remember what it was, but it was just something like, it just felt like it was just like at the whim of like
something that you can't control.
Right. So my thought process was, why don't I try to start managing this money in a way where I have more control over the process.
Yeah.
And it's like if I'm gonna lose money, it's gonna be my own fault rather than just like some random event that I can't control.
For sure.
Which doesn't actually make sense now that I am where I am now. But at the time, it made sense to me. So basically, I wanted to learn how to like trade and like how to like take in what's going on and like be able to make decisions based on that. And so so for 2018, I basically was like, I'm gonna spend this whole year like trying to trade this money.
Trade.
I mean, some trades were on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Other trades were longer term.
Okay.
A lot of what I was doing was, so when you start trying to look up content about how to trade, there's a lot of like charlatan type people. I don't know if you see these like
No, what is that?
Like people on YouTube trying to sell you their courses and stuff like that.
Oh, got it.
That's
yeah.
it's just kind of, I mean, I don't want to say scammy, but that's kind of what it is. Like, and so a lot of what I was doing, I kind of found these like Twitter communities that were like basically like watching these, people selling their courses and their chat rooms and like trying to get people to like trade, and like there was like kind of this Twitter community that was like basically just taking the opposite side of those trades because the thesis was these people are losing money. Like these people are selling courses about illegitimate things,
right?
And then these people are trying to trade off that, and so if you just take the other side of that, it's like, and so a lot of what people were trading were like these like penny stocks, like low price stocks, and they were
trying to like pump them,
right? Exactly. And so basically, I was short selling these.
A classic pump and dump.
Yeah.
So you were shorting the pump,
right?
Or
so
the pump and dump.
Basically, you would just wait for one of these chat rooms to like pump this stock up, and then just like short it the next day.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really realize it, but I was doing a lot of like quantitative type analysis, which is what I do now. But I was doing it in like Excel, and I still have these on my computer, these files, but I just have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of like examples of like, okay, this stock went up 50% yesterday. What does it do the next day? And like, what are these different features of it? Like, what was its market cap, and what was how much was it up? And I was kind of doing like linear regression type thing to see like which factors were most important, and stuff like that. But basically, like it was pretty simple and straightforward, and it was like on paper, like 75% of the time, if you just shorted these stocks that went up a ton the next day, you would make good money. So on paper, that was a really good strategy, but in practice, what you learn is shorting stocks is expensive. Like you have to pay money to your broker to do that. And so at the end of the year, or after all was said and done, it's like I had made money, like good money, but net after all these fees I had paid, it's like I'd pretty much just like broken even.
Wow.
So, and
is that because like each trade was such like a small dollar value, or relative to what like a hedge fund could do when they're shorting shit?
Well, what you realize is like, so it's like on paper you can go and look at this kind of like anomaly. Okay, these stocks go up more than 50, if a stock goes up more than 50% in a day and you short it the next day, like you should make money like most of the time. And you see that and it's like, oh, that makes money. But then when you account for like the actual fees that you have to pay to short these things, it's like, okay, maybe that anomaly only exists because you can't actually exploit it because of the cost of doing so. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if it was theoretically free to borrow the stocks and short them, then
you'd make a ton of money.
Well, yeah, but then also everyone would be doing it, and it would arbitrage that opportunity away, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that's more theoretical, and those are the types of things that like I understand better now. But so yeah, basically I spent pretty much a year like trading, and that was kind of the thing I was mainly focused on. But I was also experimenting with like other types of things. So at the end of that year, though, I was like, okay, like I didn't really make any money, and then also like the stock market went up like I can't remember, but it did make like decent money.
Yeah.
So I was like, if I had just stuck with the buy and hold thing, I would have made money, and I would have had done zero work.
Yeah.
And literally, I was like getting up at like 5 a.m., like doing all this research, like preparing for the day, and then, and then like after a year, I had nothing to show for it. But I had told myself though, like I was going to try it for a year. Like I was really committed to that. So I tried it for a year, and then at the end of the year, it was like, okay, I didn't make any money. Where am I going to go from here? And I don't know. That thought process kind of informed where I went next, because it was like this very simple, like let me try to figure out the simple thing first. Like just the thing that doesn't take up all your time in a day doing. Because that's kind of like the point of investing, right? It's like you can make money passively, right? So like why make it active when being active is really, really, really hard?
Right.
Like let's figure out the passive thing first, how to do that well, and then after I figure that out, I can maybe try to figure out how to do something more sophisticated.
So you've now like gained all this knowledge over the course of this year of kind of trading and stuff. How does that turn into your now stock thesis, or investment thesis, which is a lot more complicated in theory, but is like the basis of what you've built your business on?
Yeah, so I mean, the other things that were kind of informing what I was trying to do is, one, I have this money that, we didn't have a lot of money, so it's like I wanted to make sure that stayed around.
Protect it, yeah.
Which, taking that into account and then thinking about what I was doing, how I was trading, was really, really nonsensical. Taking like big short positions in very illiquid stocks that can go against you, hundreds of %. Not a good way to do that. Luckily I didn't, take a big loss or anything like that. Right. But in theory, like now understanding how markets work and stuff like that, like there was a lot of risk on the other sides of those trades I was taking. Obviously you can manage risk. I was set stop loss orders and stuff like that. But anyway, so I wanted to, make sure that this money stays here. I don't want to lose this money, but I also need it to grow. And then also, my mom, her income comes from the real estate market.
Right.
So
it's not like a salary.
Well, yeah, and her success and her income is tied to how well the real estate market is doing, which is very correlated with the stock market.
Yeah.
So just like buying and holding stocks, she might need this money at a time when stocks are doing really bad.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want, right?
Right.
You want, if you ever, need to draw on this money, you want it to not be at a loss, right?
Yep.
You want it to be ideally at a gain, or break even or something like that. But basically, her income is correlated with a typical investment strategy. I wanted to try to figure out how can I build a portfolio that is resilient to just your typical market shocks. Yeah. Basically, something that can do well in any type of market environment. Yep. Like, just it's gonna deliver you the return you need when it like with as much consistency as possible.
Like you're not looking for the, 30% one year, but then in a COVID year, well, maybe COVID's a bad example, but in a recession year, you're down 20.
Right.
You're not looking for that type of strategy.
Right.
You're looking
It's
for a
like-
consistent.
Right. So I mean, if the benchmark is like 8% or whatever, I don't know what it is. There's a lot of
say, for example.
Yeah. But like, is there a way you can achieve that, just that every year without the ups and the downs necessarily?
Right.
So, I basically just started researching like what is the optimal investment portfolio.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people out there have what they think is the optimal investment portfolio, but there's this tool, I still use it sometimes. A lot of what I do is more sophisticated now, but Portfolio Visualizer, and it's just like a free like web-based thing where you can basically just go and put in different allocations to different assets and like see how it would have performed through time.
Oh,
so,
like backwards looking.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
super helpful.
If anyone's like a DIY investor, I highly recommend like going
Portfolio
and
Visualizer,
because
okay.
basically you can just test your assumptions.
Yeah.
So basically, I just was researching that, and I was, there's all these people, all these professionals and stuff saying like this is the optimal just buy and hold investment portfolio. And so I was just kind of like testing those, and basically I was seeing like none of them really looked that attractive relative to just the stock market.
Yeah.
But there was one that I did that actually was, it looked like something viable, and this was like Ray Dalio's like, he calls it his all-weather portfolio.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and honestly, this was just like a simplified version of ETFs.
Okay.
Like actually, so Ray Dalio, he's the founder of Bridgewater, which is the largest hedge fund in the world.
Oh, okay.
So this was like someone made like a simplified ETF version of his like their all-weather like investment strategy.
Yeah.
So it's not like really what they are doing, but it's like the closest kind of that. Actually, it's not even really close now that I understand it better. But like this was just like, hey, if you want to invest like Ray Dalio, this like
a way for the casual investor to do that.
But it so it had a good Sharpe ratio. So Sharpe ratio is just a measure of your returns relative to your risk.
Yes.
And that's really like the holy grail metric. I mean, there's other ways you can look at it too, but really that's what everyone's trying to do. You're trying to maximize your return with the minimum amount of risk.
Yep.
It's just a big optimization problem. And so
Now, how do you correct for that when your client wants to be more risky?
Well, really what you're saying is they want a higher return, right?
Yes, they're willing to risk more
Right.
to achieve a higher return.
Right. So, I mean, you would just move them into riskier investments.
Right, so you have strategies for that that will give people like a higher return based on their risk appetite and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. There's different, everyone has a different risk tolerance, and so for people that want to take the most risk, they're going to be invested in this set of strategies. More conservative investors will be invested in this set of strategies. But everything we do, everything is, from the basis is very like diversified.
Yes.
So, I guess a traditional investment firm would say, oh, you're an aggressive investor, we're going to put you in more stocks than bonds or something like that. And if you're conservative, you're going to get more bonds and stocks. That's not how I approach it, because, the optimal, by concentrating into either one, whether it's stocks or bonds, even if bonds are less volatile, you're taking more risk, because the least risky investment portfolio is the one that has the most amount of bets in it, because you don't know which bet's going to play out right. Yeah. So it's like even if bonds are less volatile than stocks, it's like you're just
something macroeconomically could happen that could tank the entire bond market.
Right. Or there's also inflation risk. Yep. So it's like you're just,
which is huge right now.
It's like that notion of just shifting in more into one bet than another bet, like that's in my view, that's not that's not how you should be like approaching the problem, because you're not by reducing volatility, you're not necessarily being more conservative.
Yeah.
You're just taking a different type of risk, essentially.
Right.
So yeah, like basically I have different strategies that are diversified across every single asset class, every single geography, and then the way that you kind of construct those portfolios, you can do it in a riskier way.
Got it.
As opposed to a conservative way. And so like the way you make the distinction is through the type of strategy, not through the type of asset.
Got it. No, that makes sense.
So, but yeah, where was I?
Well, but so on Graybridge specifically, like bringing that kind of to light.
Yeah.
Like you've now formed your LLC. You kind of have your strategies are, in the client acquisition period, and you eventually decided you want to make an app out of your business.
Yeah. So yeah, and a little bit before that, testing these portfolios through time, I realized that was a very helpful tool.
Yep.
Because it's like you can have all these theories about how investment should work and stuff, but like as soon as you can test it through time and see how it works, it's like that's not the end all be all. Like because you can test things historically that look really good and then they flop.
Yeah.
Going into the future, like it's very easy to find like things that would have worked, but I think if you are gonna invest in a strategy, you should at least know what it would have looked like in the past.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's gonna work into the future, but like you should at the very least know what it looks like in the past.
For sure.
So yeah, that I quickly realized that like, and I was thinking about this even with my like, the trading I had done. If you know how to code and you know how to work with the data, you can just any idea that you have, you can just test it through time, and then you can know right then and there if it works or not. So, I went down this is 2019 after I had gone through my like trading stint, and so I was very aggressively trying to learn how to code, and I pretty much through like Udemy courses. And there was a platform called Quantopian, which was like a back test. That's what back testing is what that term that is used for testing an investment strategy through time.
That website specifically, they used to have like competitions, right? If you if you could come up with like I don't know, the best strategy or whatever, they would like pay you out for it.
Right. So yeah, I pretty much exclusively like learned how to code on that platform and using some Udemy courses to like learn the basics. But yeah, they had like tournaments and stuff. I didn't really participate in those. I was mainly just interested in like testing different things. But when you learn how to do that, you kind of like the like 2,000 ways how to not invent a light bulb type thing. It's like you find that most every idea that you can come up with does not work.
Right.
Like a lot of stuff is garbage.
Yeah.
Which is a useful thing to know. Like
like just frustrating.
Yeah. And then honestly, there's kind of this like flaw because when you can go and see the data, it's easy to like just keep tweaking stuff until you find something that looks good, and then you realize I've just over optimized this thing on the historical data and it doesn't work. So, it's I learned how to code and I learned how to do make these back tests, but I realized like that's it's a useful tool, but it can quickly like be like a thing that you can use wrong. Like it could be used to your own detriment. So but so through doing that, I mean, I learned a lot of lessons, and I learned things that how to test things in a way that is in a way that you can verify that they should work into the future, like through statistical methods, and then also just a lot of just like understanding economic theory. Like that's really what you want in a successful investment strategy is like one, like the data supports it, and then two, like the economic theory.
Right.
Like there's a reason why it should continue to work into the future.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of what informs like the process at Graybridge. And then, I mean, so like I said, I mostly started it just because I like wanted to I wanted to be managing my family's money in a compliant way and like
Yeah.
get compensated for it. But I was also realizing that there was kind of this gap in the industry where, so I mean, obviously I had learned a lot about Bridgewater and how they were investing. And so Bridgewater, they're the largest hedge fund in the world. I think they've achieved returns over like a few decades of like 12% or something. So like, I mean, those aren't like astonishing returns, but like they're doing it with the most amount of money. So like, there's a scale to how much you can invest. And it's
consistent, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like a consistent 12% return, and they're doing it at massive scale, like bigger than anyone else. So like they've created through financial markets, they've created like the most amount of dollars for investors. Mm-hmm. And then there's Renaissance Technologies, which is similar, but rather than basically they have the highest like percentage returns.
Yep.
Like one of their funds, the Medallion Fund, something like 66% a year or something like that. Like something really, really, really astonishing. And so their processes are different. Renaissance Technologies is purely just data, like machine learning, basically just like, hundreds of PhDs just like working on this problem, and but there's a scale to it. I think they can only manage like $10 billion in their strategies, which is obviously still a lot, but like, they can't achieve these like really, really incredible returns like at a scale larger than that. And then Bridgewater's kind of doing the opposite approach, like how much scale can we do? What's the highest return and the most consistent return we can achieve with the most amount of money? Yeah. But anyway, I look at these. I looked at these two firms and I'm like, these, they're obviously they're achieving great success in the markets,
right?
And they're both in different ways, but they're both using like quantitative, systematic strategies. Like it's just data and code, and then like I said, Renaissance Technologies is more just data and machine learning, and then Bridgewater is using those approaches, but they're also very much trying to understand how the economic machine works, and but in a data-driven way, and then trying to figure out how to bet on different things and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess I look at these firms and I'm like, they're using code and data, and their strategies are fully systematized, and I'm like learning that that's really like the best way to be investing. Yeah. That's a lot better. It's a recipe for success, more so than just using your discretion and just like saying, oh, I think this should work.
I think
and
Tesla's
then doing
a good stock.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. I guess I was just like, I feel like there's a gap in here. Like the best investors in the world are doing using a quantitative approach. Yeah. And then everyone else just gets, hey, you get an index fund.
Right.
That's the best you can do.
And because the best investors in the world also, like for the casual investor, like it's inaccessible to us.
Right.
Like you have to be ultra rich or there's a bar that you have to meet to even invest with them.
I think neither of these firms are even open to new investors.
Yes.
Like they have their clients and that's it. Like you can't.
Right.
So,
right. So for, the casual guy like me, like, why do I not get it? Or why am I not allowed to have 66% returns or 12% returns for 50 years of my life?
Yeah.
Right. So that's the gap you were trying to fill.
Yeah.
Or are trying to fill. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, that wasn't like the primary reason, but I thought that was like an opportunity there. Like, hey, I'm basically like just, and those aren't the only two firms that I look at, but like, I'm basically just kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. Like I just consume the content and research that they put out. Yeah. And then, I have my own understanding of how, the objectives that I want to achieve, but, and, I've done I have my own research that I do, and, but yeah, it's like I feel like I'm not really reinventing the wheel. I'm not doing anything that's not already known in the world, but I am doing a lot that is not accessible to the average person. Right. So, my thought was, okay, I can, I enjoy doing this. Like, I think it's interesting. I think it's like some of the most interesting stuff in the world. Like, the financial markets are the most difficult problem, one of the most difficult problems in the world. And then like writing code and like, you know, trying to figure out the markets, like it's just like, it's fun and exciting to me. It's something that like consistently grabs my attention. Like, there's always something new to work on or something like an idea to test or something. So it's just something I enjoy doing. And then, you know, I was, I've made it, I wanted to make it accessible to like anyone that wanted to like invest that way or wanted to.
So what happened to the app? Because you spent...
Let me talk about the app. So
probably a year and a half, 2 years?
It was probably just the better part of a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started my firm, and you know, as an investment advisor, you have to have a brokerage firm.
Yep.
You know, they're the ones that have the accounts for all your clients and where you manage the investments.
And just for people that don't understand, you use a third-party broker.
Yes.
You are just the manager for your clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Like, that's the typical setup. And so, you know, I'm running these systematic investment strategies, so it's like I need a broker that can support that. I need an API, basically.
Yep.
And a lot of brokers have APIs now, but so I mean, and then, you know, in the types of investment approaches that I use, there's a relatively more amount of turnover in the portfolios because they're being rebalanced every month.
Yeah.
So like having commission-free like trading is important, which is honestly at this point is pretty much now like the gold standard.
Yeah.
Most brokerage firms have that. But so those are kind of the things that I needed in a brokerage firm when I started the firm. And, you know, the firm I chose had those things, and they were a well-established firm. But the user experience and like the client onboarding process was just like terrible. And this is pretty known in the investment advisory industry. It's like, I don't know. It's just like brokerages like really weren't initially set up to like have like the client advisor relationship. That was kind of like a second afterthought, because I mean pretty much every brokerage firm you can think about it, like you could just go sign up yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So like there's kind of a conflict of interest, like, you know, they kind of just want they want people to set up their own accounts and manage their own money, and like they probably make more fees off that.
Right.
And so it's just it was a really clunky experience, and like I just dreaded the idea of like getting a new big client or something and having them have to go through this arduous process. And like so around that same time, Alpaca, which is like it's a relatively new brokerage firm, but like they started up as like an API first brokerage firm, so it's like built for the developer.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I you know, using their platform is kind of where I started like testing the different strategies and stuff I had. So I was really familiar with them, and then they released this new product called the Broker API, where it's like investment advisors or like people that want to like create apps or something for people to go, like basically like Robinhood type apps or something, could just like basically institutions can build on there for clients.
Yeah.
And so I was just like really excited about it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna, you know, I hate this user experience. I'm just gonna like build it myself, build it the way I want it. And so yeah, I went on that journey. I got really committed to it, and I started building it, and I built it all the way to the point we were beta testing it, and it was
I remember.
Yeah. So like, you know, there was I mean, it was to the point where you could transfer money from your bank account, and you know, all the investment process was systematized, and you know, you could set up your account, and I mean, yeah, it was pretty much there, and then so we were beta testing it, and then I was just getting really bogged down with like the thought of like I didn't really have the resources to be like managing like a full scale like application, especially one managing like people's money and stuff, because even in the beta process it was like there was just like bugs popping up, and it's like this is literally going to be my life. It's just sitting here like like squashing bugs essentially. And
I like that term for a cyber
well, and
bug.
it's like if I had the resources to pay someone full time or something to do it, it wouldn't have been much of a problem. But then I was like, if this actually gets big enough to the point where I need it to maybe be worth it, I don't know. It just was. It was getting.
You need a full-time developer.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I'm already have this advisory firm where I do everything full time myself. I'm doing the compliance and the accounting, and like I do pretty much everything myself. And now on top of this, I'm going to be running this platform. And then also there was, there was another issue, and this was probably honestly more relevant, but like, Alpaca doesn't support like retirement accounts, and when I initially started building like a year before, it was like they had told me that was like on their roadmap, and a lot of the money that I was currently managing like was in retirement accounts.
Yeah.
So basically like once I launched this thing, I was gonna be able to move my clients' funds over to Alpaca, but not the retirement accounts, which was like a good portion of the assets. So then I was gonna like have this new platform, but also have to keep using the old platform for these types of accounts. That was like really clunky. And then around that same time, I had known about it, but this platform called Altruist had. I had initially looked at them when I was trying to pick the brokerage firm I was going to use, and they had a really good user experience platform. Like it was a very updated, like modern, fresh experience. They were like they're building this out to explicitly be for advisor and client relationships. So like you can't go use them just as an individual investor. Like it's specifically if your investment advisor uses them, that's where your account will be. They've made the onboarding process completely digital. Account transfers are completely digital. This is something that's like, used to be like a paperwork thing, or like you'd have to call the back office of some place, and like just a really, really difficult process. But initially when I looked at them, they had a lot of constraints on like the portfolios that you could build for clients. Like it was very much like your traditional, like you could have
ETFs and like index funds.
Right. And so I was looking for something where I could have retirement accounts that was not my old solution, something like newer and fresh, like the kind of the app that I had built to kind of complement it. And then, I found that, and they, support every account type, and they had expanded the offering of products that you could give to your clients. And eventually I was just like, this saves me so much time. And it's not, and the burden of the platform is on them, not me. And there has been times where like, you have technical issues and stuff like that, and like, and the support team was like, they're like very, very thorough and like responsive, and like so initially I went ahead and moved the retirement accounts over there, and I was still going to go ahead and use the app that I had built for just the individual accounts. But after using them for just a little while, I was like, this is just like this makes so much more sense than me like having my own thing that I'm going to have to manage the tech of it and stuff like that.
So they support both individual and retirement accounts.
Yeah, I mean, they literally have any account type that you can ever imagine. And it was clear to me that like that just like wasn't Alpaca's vision. That was my vision as an advisor. Like that's the type of depth that I need. I need to be able to handle whatever situation that the client's in. And Alpaca is very like focused on kind of like the retail investor, like building the retail investor and like the developer, like making quantitative trading strategies, which is great. And I actually I have like a small account with them, my own individual account that I like, just try out different stuff in and things like that. And they also have a really good like paper trading, so it's like a simulated environment.
Okay.
So you can like write your code and test it out.
Oh,
in their
that's really
simulated
cool.
environment. So that's like a really useful tool.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're both great platforms, and
Your vision aligned a little bit better with this one.
Yeah,
it
just, I mean, it saved me so much headache,
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's
what
direction
happened
I
to the
went.
app.
And I shut down the app, and I was a little bit sad, but honestly, I felt like
a weight was lifted. off your shoulder.
like a big burden was lifted. And I can go into this a little bit later, but it was not all for naught. Like I've had good opportunities that have come from having built an entire financial investment platform, even though that it never became anything. But
we should probably wrap up,
Okay.
and then because we're still filming another episode.
Okay. Well, let me finish the last thought.
Go ahead.
Because I think this is relevant. But so yeah, I mean, honestly, the revenue from an investment advisory business mostly comes from, how much assets you have under management, right? There's a direct link to that.
Yes.
Unless you're offering like financial planning services, which I'm not through my firm. It's really just the investment management portion right now. And so honestly, it's been a bit of a struggle to get a large amount of assets, and like you need a pretty significant amount to make a living off of this. So I don't know, just being like a single member firm and I'm just in my 20s. Even though I think what I'm doing has a lot of value, and just the friction of it. The people that have the most money to invest now have been doing it a certain way for many years, and are just like comfortable with whatever platform they're using. And it's like even if people were even if you go through the education, like this is why this is a superior process. The friction of having to uproot everything that they've already done and move it over here, and they have to learn a new or like make a new account and learn a new platform, that type of thing. There's just been a lot of friction there. So I don't know. I've been exploring like other ways that I can monetize what I'm doing, and so recently, like I've been doing a lot of like consulting and development work for other investment advisors.
Oh.
Yeah. So like other firms like my own or hedge funds.
Yeah.
Basically people that, institutions that, are looking to systematize stuff they're already doing, looking to like conduct research on an idea. Like, they have a hypothesis, they want to test it through time. So yeah, I've been doing more of my revenue has been coming through doing those projects
consulting
than through
projects,
than through the advisory part, through managing the funds myself currently. So
which is something that you probably didn't envision back then, but
no, it wasn't. But
probably a very useful skill set that those people are getting.
Right, and there's a lot of small to mid-sized firms that don't really have the resources to hire like a full-time developer. But a lot of what I've already developed for my firm is applicable to them.
Right.
But yeah, so like I don't know, like even though I had to scrap the app and I put a lot of resources into it, it's like I've used that. I use that as hey, I built this whole like platform, like
and it's opened a door for
to get initial projects, and now I've gotten. I probably have done 10 of these projects now for different advisors and hedge funds and stuff, and I'm getting like repeat business, and I'm,
that's incredible.
Just building credibility. And so I didn't expect it, but there is like this little niche of like programmatic finance that is like really, really like valuable.
Right.
To people.
Well, no, because like, with my background and everything, I've tried many times to get into that exactly, like coding and like, like the quant-based trading and that type of stuff. And I just, and of course I didn't put in the effort and time that you did, but every time I just get lost in it and I'm just like, I give up.
Yeah, there's a high barrier to entry.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just learning how to code, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think if you're interested in coding, like you should I think coding is one of the most useful skills.
For sure.
Like and that looking back on me not knowing what I wanted to do in undergrad and them telling me I couldn't take a computer science course, I'm like, dang, I really wish. I almost wish I had done complete computer science.
Computer science with a finance minor or something.
Not even that. I honestly think just being a computer science is more relevant in finance now than knowing anything about finance. I mean, a lot of it is I mean, everything's trending toward data, machine learning, that type of thing. So,
it is. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode of the Rome's Room podcast. Again, you can catch us on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, CastBox, and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. Maddox, do you have anything you want to plug?
www.graybridge.finance, or if you're looking for a house, Realty Executives. We didn't
get to touch that. We'll touch it in the next one.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, because also his side hustle is that you're a realtor.
It's not my side hustle. It's my family business.
True. But we'll get into that on the next one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.